There we go. All right, so yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Just to give a quick overview of the agenda for this info session here, going to give some background on the Regional Food Systems Partnership Grant that has kind of made this food summit possible, and then talk in a little bit more detail about the planning committee, specifically the role and kind of expectations and all of that, and then have plenty of time at the end for Q&A. So really want to be able to answer any questions that any of you might have. So that's what we're gonna that's the plan for the next hour or however long it takes. So just to get started, the Food Policy Council was awarded a Regional Food Systems Partnership Grant from the USDA in the fall. And the name of this project is Building Regional Resilience, the Greater Pittsburgh Food Systems Partnership. Within the grant, there are 4 objectives. So that's what's up on the screen here, focusing on institutional procurement, regional supply chain, financial investment in our regional food system, and then backbone capacity. And so the summit kind of falls under that last objective around backbone capacity. So just to share a little bit more about that one specifically, the goal within this objective is really about strengthening connections and communications among food system stakeholders in the Pittsburgh area in southwestern Pennsylvania. So some of the activities here, the PFPC currently convenes member meetings, so continuing to do that and supporting that effort. Doing the kind of evaluation and doing kind of feedback mechanisms for like all the other grant activities. But most relevant to our conversation tonight is the annual Food System Summit. So that's just kind of wanted to share the context that the summit is kind of coming from. So yeah, we're really excited. The summit is something that it's been from the Food Policy Council is something we've been thinking about for a long time and wanting to do, but never quite had the resources and the timing and the opportunities all kind of align. So we're really excited to be able to write it into this grant and obviously to have it awarded and now to start working on it and planning it and helping it come to fruition. So that's a little bit of kind of like the background and where the idea for this summit kind of came from. And so to get into a little bit more detail about the summit itself and the role of the planning committee. Right now, we really just have kind of like high level overview of some big picture objectives for the summit. So that would be to identify some shared goals among food system stakeholders in the region, to help facilitate cross-sector relationships, and to bring attention and engagement and momentum to the issues of kind of equitable and sustainable regional food systems development. So those are kind of like the overarching objectives, but it would really be the role of the planning committee just to figure out how to accomplish that, to achieve that. So I guess on that point, kind of the role of the planning committee, as I mentioned, really starting with like developing a vision and goals for what we want to have to accomplish at the summit. And then, from there, trying to identify what are the themes, what is the structure, how is it going to be set up and run. We need to identify a location to develop and help to implement a communications plan to promote this event. Probably conducting some outreach for both for sponsorships and for speakers at the summit. Identifying food, AV, and any other vendor needs that we would have, and then trying to not only identify the needs, but then meet them as well, right? And then, yeah, I'm sure there will be other details and logistics as necessary. We will have in the months leading up to, I think it's two months or so leading up to the actual summit, we'll be able to hire an event coordinator. So the planning committee won't necessarily need to be managing all the details of every contract and all of that. We'll have some additional help for that, but again, just the kind of planning of the event is really the focus for this committee. So I guess moving on here to the expectations then for committee members. Looking for people who are able to commit to attending and really actively participating in the committee meetings, which will be 2 times per month. And it's going to be a collaborative effort, so people can work well and work collaboratively with others through that process. There will likely be a number of additional tasks in between these meetings. So things, like a lot of email communication, I would imagine, or phone calls, if that works better, editing and creating various documents, conducting outreach, those types of tasks that would happen in between meetings. And then some support, again, in promoting outreach for the summit, and day of being present and helping out with logistics as well. And lastly, we want to hear from folks after the summit is after the summit happens, and what the experience of the event, of the planning process was, how we can improve it, because we have through this grant we're going to be doing this in 2024 and in 2025. So I want to be able to improve on our processes as we go. So those are some of the kind of expectations we're hoping for committee members. And to get into the nitty-gritty a little bit and the details, we will be having a 7-person planning committee, and wanting to have really kind of a diverse range of voices represented on that committee, particularly highlighting folks who are most impacted by inequities within the food system, wanting to create space for them to have a voice in creating the plan for the summit. As I mentioned, meetings will be 2 times per month, starting in May and going up to May of this year, going up through February of next year. Committee members will be stipended for their work in planning this summit. We have a $1,200 stipend. Don't know the details yet of how exactly payments will be dispersed. That's something we'll probably figure out with the final 7 committee members. So applications are currently now open. They're available, the application's available on the Food Policy Council website, and they will be open until April 9th. Pretty much immediately after that, we'll start reviewing the applications, and we'll do interviews with the top applicants in kind of late April. And then look to make final decisions and of course let everyone know their status, and then have our first committee meeting starting in mid-May. So that's a bit of a timeline and kind of overview of the details of the committee. I think the last thing here that I wanted to share is just some more information about the application, what folks can expect to see there. Tried to keep it pretty short and simple. So we ask, for some contact information, some demographic information, and then just these 4 questions here of, why are you interested in joining this planning committee? What relevant skills and experience would you bring? What is your current role within the food system? And how do you incorporate equity into your work? So those are the 4 questions on the application. And I can certainly go ahead and put the link in the chat for the folks here, to the website that has some of this information available, and to the application itself. But I think that's pretty much all that I have. Just wanted to open it up and see if any of you have questions. I'd be happy to answer them.
I have a couple questions. Sorry, my camera's broken, but is there a lead from the Pittsburgh Food Policy Council who would be leading the meetings, or would it be very strictly the committee that's elected?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the probably myself from the Food Policy Council would be, helping to schedule, set agendas, and send follow-up notes and that kind of thing. That's probably something we can discuss like in one of the earlier committee meetings of if we want to have a chair or co-chair or different roles within the committee. But even if that is the case, the Food Policy Council staff would definitely be able to provide kind of some of that administrative support if that's if that, to the extent that that's desired, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, Lisa. You are on mute, Lisa. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I learned how to put my hand up and wait my turn. Thank you so much. I wanted to know, in the idea and the vision of the summit, is this like a one-day event? Or is it a weekend? Is it oriented toward conference-like thing? What are you envisioning?
Yeah, so I think there's room for the committee to play around with some of those questions. We've started as Food Policy Council staff started to have some of those questions, and I think we were imagining more of like a one day, like a one full day kind of event. Yeah, but I think there's a lot of flexibility in terms of designing like what it looks like if it's more, again, kind of some of the goals are really about that kind of network development and relationship building. So I don't think we would want it to be too much of a what's the word that I'm looking for? We wouldn't want to have it be like solely focused on like education, for example, and trying to have it be solely focused on like learning. But yeah, I think, as I said, I think there's a lot of flexibility for the planning committee in kind of setting the vision and the goals to answer some of those questions.
And this is my last question. Can this something we hope to have this for April of 2023. Would this start the momentum towards the farm tour and all the other things that you naturally do? Or is that something that we can sort of incorporate into? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're asking about kind of how this summit will connect with,
yes,
with other events the Food Policy Council leads, like the farm tour and things like that.
Yeah.
My sense is that, the farm tour will be in September of this year. So by that point, I think, the summit will have some of the, I think like some of the communications materials and some of that stuff ready. So I think we could, at the farm tour, we could be starting to advertise and promote this event. I'm not sure how else they might tie in. I think there
okay. No, that's good.
Opportunities to do that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. And I see Jody put a question in the chat. Are there any requirements that need to be included or met for the summit based on the grant? I have to go back and check. I think we wrote in the grant having a planning committee that would help to plan the event, to plan the summit. I think we estimated 100 attendees. I don't think we're held to that. but yeah, I don't think there are too many particular, I guess the long answer short is I don't think there are too many particular requirements of like what needs to happen at the summit to meet particular deliverables or requirements related to the grant, but can double check to see if there's anything I'm overthinking.
I have, well, it's not really a question, it's just a comment, but I attended the Erie Food Policy Summit that they had earlier. So I don't know if that's something we could maybe pull from or lessons learned from their summit that they did. Just throwing that out there too.
Yeah, thanks so much for mentioning that. When we were when we were writing the grant, we were in touch with the Chicago Food Policy Action Council. They've had, I think they've done a summit for 12 years, but 13 years, something like that. So we talked to them to get some guidance on, some of the initial framing of it. But I think that would be, it'd be really great to talk, probably to talk to them again, to talk to the folks in Erie, maybe a few other people who have done these kind of summits and yeah, learn what their experiences have been like. How, if I can ask, how was your experience at the food summit up in Erie?
It was good. I'm not super familiar with the Erie area. I work for AHN, if anyone doesn't know me. Hi, I'm Tori. But we have a hospital in Erie that has a food center there. So we attended the Erie Food Summit. And it was good. It was a lot of the things you mentioned, the goals, like we were able to make connections with other people that were doing similar work that we just didn't even know about. And I think it was a good balance of like speakers and education versus conversation and just networking.
Great. Glad to hear it was a good experience, and sounds like, yeah, like you said, sounds like they had similar goals and maybe struck a balance that we might be looking to as well. So definitely have to reach out.
I guess, is it for internal like stakeholders just in the Pittsburgh region, or does it extend, like would people from other areas be coming to this type of thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. We've been talking about that one as well. I think like the primary audience is people in like the greater Pittsburgh, whether that's Allegheny County, probably touching some of the surrounding counties as well. But I think we might can see a role in bringing in some like state agencies or people, people who are involved in food systems work at the state level that affects the region. And I wouldn't be surprised if people from Erie, for example, or other places that are a little bit further but are still connected or involved, if they would want to attend as well. We would certainly welcome that, but I would say that's not probably the primary audience, if that makes sense.
Okay. I guess other question, it's like, seems very ambiguous. I guess, how would you know like what success means? And maybe that's something you determine at the beginning of this relationship, like at the first meeting or first couple meetings, but is there like a number of people that are attending or like result that you're hoping for? Yeah,
that's a good question. And just to clarify, you mean success like for the summit as a whole, not specifically right. Like the planning committee? Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I think I mentioned our kind of estimate in the grant was that we'd have 100 attendees. So I guess that's one number that we could use to say whether we met that or not. I think that we would probably want to do some like post-event surveying and following up with people to just try and hear about the experiences that people had, and hopefully, I guess as Tori just shared, right? Like if we got similar testimony or responses from people that said like, oh yeah, I met these people and made these connections, learned about this or that. I think that is probably going to be the best way that we can measure our success. And there are other things like maybe media coverage, maybe things like, I don't know how to, just like people's enthusiasm and excitement and things like that. I think that's part of the like post-event survey that we might try and do to gauge, to be able to report on the kind of impacts and success, hopefully, of the summit.
Sounds very interesting, exciting.
Yeah, I think so. As I was starting to kind of start to do this work and putting it together, it's like, oh, this is going to be really fun.
When I saw the 5 questions on your why would you be interested in doing this, I envision having those. That's just me, envision having those tracks. Are you an eater? I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Have an eater track, have a farmer track, have a business track. So everybody who's there finds themselves. I think, from regional to your farm to table, we all find ourselves. So I'm looking forward to this.
Good. Yeah, thanks.
I'm excited about it as well. Done a lot of conferences and stuff, so glad to see you all and your interest in being a part of this.
Yeah.
Especially now that we're doing some more things back in person. The virtual conference just doesn't have the same ring to it. And yeah, Lisa, we got to hang out in Lancaster, which was super fun for PASA.
It was nice. And ours, of course, has to be better than that. No, competition at all, but we do things better.
Right. We can learn from there.
Yeah.
We don't have to travel 5 hours.
It was nice, but I think we have a lot of resources around here and we can include a lot of things. So it's exciting. It sounds really exciting to me.
Maybe we have potential to grow. We start small and then like I can see us in like a couple years, we're gonna be like, I want a mobile tour, I want this one. The 7 tracks that Lisa has laid out.
Well, that was a little too much.
I still like
okay, just one.
I still like it though.
All right. Well, any other questions? Well,
Are you like looking for people specifically who fill certain niches? I feel like I read that like you'd want someone who has this communication skill set or the logistics skill set. Is that kind of the goal of the committee?
yeah, I mean, we don't have like specific seats on the committee, right? We're not looking to like, okay, let's get one communications expert, one, event planning expert or anything like that. But obviously, those are just kind of like the skills that will be needed. So I think that would make, someone a stronger candidate if they have that kind of experience. But I'd say those are skills that will be needed. But also, as I mentioned, we really want to make sure we have kind of a diverse committee in terms of, different identities and in terms of different experiences, all of that. So, yeah, I don't know if that's an answer to your question, but
Yeah, that's very.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining. Appreciate your interest and your enthusiasm for the event. We're excited about it too. And if you do have any other questions, feel free to reach out. I can put my email in the chat. It's just sam@pittsburghfoodpolicy.org. And yeah, as I mentioned, applications are open until the 9th. So feel free to, I hope you'll all apply and go from there.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks.